going to be the first slide that we want to look at, which is the human scalp slide. When you're looking at this slide, one of the things that you probably want to do is you probably want to turn the slide upside down, okay? Because, you know, we want the hair coming out the top, not at the bottom, okay? So orients it kind of like our model is over here, okay? So we've got the hair sticking up at the top. That's kind of what we want. All right, the skin is an organ. The skin's the largest organ in the human body, actually. So, 3 layers of the skin. I'm going to show you the 3 layers, and then I'm going to go up on a higher power and look at those layers in a little bit more detail. So, this is on your review sheet for Lab Test 3. There is not a picture of the skin slide, but there is a kind of a diagram of the skin on page 157. It looks kind of like our model that we have over there. 3 layers of the skin. What do you think we call the most superficial layer of the skin?
Epidermis.
The epidermis. The epidermis is going to extend from this flaky layer down to below, just right below where that dark layer is. I'm going to come up on higher power and look at it in a little more detail in a second. The middle layer of the skin, which is pretty much everything right in here, the middle layer of the skin is called the dermis. And then about here down, all the way across, so just about here across and down, is going to be the bottom layer of the skin, which we call the hypodermis, or we call it the subcutaneous layer. Okay?
What was the first one?
The first is the epidermis. All right, I'm going to go on a higher power, and I'm going to look at the epidermis in a little bit more detail. All right, so here is the epidermis. Okay, I want to look at this layer. Now I'm going to look at it on even the highest magnification here. And so here we can see this is the flaky layer that you slough off. Down here at the bottom, on your slide, it's probably going to show up a little bit better. But the very bottom layer will be these cells that have a nice distinct nucleus. If we're shedding our skin daily, okay, do we need to regrow it?
Yes.
Well, yes, we replace it. And it's this layer down here at the bottom where the cells are going to be actively dividing and pushing all of these older cells up to the surface, where they pretty much lose all of their cell parts. They're going to lose their nucleus, they're going to lose all of the parts, all of the cytoplasm is going to be replaced by a protein called keratin. And the keratin is what waterproofs your skin. Okay, it's what waterproofs your skin. All right? So, I'm going to go back to a little bit of a lower magnification so we can kind of see a little bit better here. Because the epidermis is actually made up of 5 different layers of epithelial tissue. Okay? I'm only going to hold you responsible for 2. Okay? The very top layer right here, the part that you flake off, is called the stratum corneum. The bottom layer down here that is regrowing the cells is the stratum basale.
And that's just that dark, thick line, right? Okay.
This is actually multiple layers. I'm actually pointing to the lowest of the base layer.
Okay.
Okay, the very lowest layer. Okay. So look, if I were to ask you in general, what do I call the top layer of the skin? What would it be?
Epidermis.
Epidermis. If I put the pointer here and said specifically, identify this specific layer, what would it be? The stratum corneum. And if I said the same thing down here, it would be stratum basale. Okay? Any questions on that? All right, the dermis is made up of a different type of tissue. It's a connective tissue, but we're not going to really focus on what that kind of connective tissue is. But I just kind of want you to understand that we've got organs made up of different types of tissue. What I want to look at is I want to look at the structures that are in the dermis. The dermis has a lot of stuff in it. This is where you're going to find your glands and other things. All right? So, what is this?
Hair follicle.
Okay. It's not the hair follicle. Okay? This whole big thing is the hair follicle. So if I go back out on that lower magnification,
Wow.
we can see the whole thing. This is a hair follicle. The thing inside of that hair follicle we call a hair shaft. So splitting hairs, no pun intended.
Yes, it will.
But this is, just kidding. So this is the hair follicle. And then this is the hair shaft. Is what we would call, this, the stuff that sticks out on the top, that sticks out from the surface of the skin is the hair shaft. Okay? Now I've got a bunch of glands in here. The glands here that are hanging out next to my hair follicles, these guys here, this is an oil gland. Oil gland. Okay? If I ask you an oil gland on the test, I'm going to ask you, he will be associated with a hair follicle, so you'll be able to see him next to that hair follicle. This gland here, oops, I think I forgot to tell the morning class this, I got to fix that. This gland here, this one here, and there's a smaller one here, and if you go out onto a lower magnification, okay, it's not, I won't move it around, but there are more of these. These two things right here, these are sweat glands. Sweat glands do not, okay, oil glands open into the hair follicles. Sweat glands don't. They just open right up on the skin's surface. Okay?
They're both sweat glands?
Both of these are sweat glands. Yeah. All right, then I've got this little guy here. Do you see this little guy right here? That little guy right there is a type of smooth muscle. And if you're smooth muscle, are you under voluntary or involuntary control?
Involuntary.
Involuntary control. This is a smooth muscle. This muscle is also going to be associated with a hair follicle. This is called an arrector pili muscle. Okay. It will always be hanging around a hair follicle and an oil gland. Okay, the word pili means hair. Okay? What is arrector? What do you think arrector means?
Support.
Erect means
To stand up?
stand up straight. So what do you think this muscle does?
Oh, for goosebumps.
It makes your hair stand on end. Okay? So when you get goosebumps, those arrector pili muscles are going to contract and they cause your hair to stand straight up. Okay? It traps heat in the hair follicle, keeps your body warm, and when you shiver, it actually warms up your body as well. Those typically kind of go hand in hand. Any questions on the skin? All right, so we've covered mainly a lot of parts in the skin. We've also looked at one type of tissue. We've looked at epithelial tissue. That's the epidermis. Okay. Now we're going to look. Oh, forgot one more type of tissue. Here in the skin. In the subcutaneous layer. So now we're going to move down into the third layer of the skin. The subcutaneous layer, or the hypodermis. Down here. And all of this tissue here is adipose. What is adipose tissue? It's another name for what kind of generic type of tissue would we call it? It is fat. Okay? So those are what fat cells look like. Okay? Fat cells are kind of big. They're kind of roundish, so you can kind of imagine that if I were to complete this cell, just the way that they cut the slide and the tissue, you know, we didn't get necessarily complete cells. But here's a cell, and there's the nucleus of that cell is what you're seeing. All of these dark dots here, these are the nuclei of all of these fat cells. Okay? So this tissue, this whole layer that's up there all the way, you know, down, I'll draw here, is adipose. Adipose is what we group it as a type of connective tissue. Okay? So it's an insulating layer of our skin in this case is what it's doing. So the skin is an organ made up of different types of tissues and structures. We saw most of the structures in the dermis, the glands, the hair, the muscles. But at the top layer we saw epithelial tissue. That's one type. And at the bottom we saw an example of a connective tissue, which is fat. Okay, any questions?
So all fat is adipose? Like no
All
matter where
fat
it
is adipose. It's in different locations.
And that's a tissue.
It's a tissue.
Okay.
It's
Yeah,
yellow.
all fat is adipose.
So
Isn't
all
it
fat
yellow?
would be connective tissue.
It is yellow.
It's like popcorn.
Huh? Does it look like popcorn?
That's it. That's what it. That's what
This
it
looks
does.
like popcorn. Popcorn's not fat though.
Why? Fattening.
Popcorn's not fattening until you put all that butter on it.
It really does.
Get the Smart Pop. And it's not
Smart
fattening.
pop. Is that like no butter? No.
All right.
salt, No nothing.
Any
You're
questions?
not in your hair.
All right. We're going to look at two other types of connective tissue. And the first one we're going to look at is going to be hyaline cartilage. Hyaline cartilage is another type of connective tissue.
You just want to put it right here.
That's okay. Let me write it down. Because I took a picture.
Okay. What is cartilage?
All right, what we
Mind your
want to
way.
look at
No,
is
you
this
did.
middle layer right here.
You sure?
Yeah, no. It was like actually the fountain.
Now I want you to notice what kind of tissue is up here and what kind of tissue is down here.
Is
Adipose?
It's more adipose, okay? So we have it all over the place. We've got adipose everywhere. We have adipose in places that we don't want adipose.
Yep.
Okay?
Adipose is fat, right?
Adipose is fat. All right, so we want to focus in on this ribbon that's running through the fat tissue on either side. We want this. And I'm going to go up on a high power so we can find that one little area of that ribbon. And I want you to notice that we can see some cells, can't we? And then we can see some pale stuff in the back. The pale stuff in the back, that stuff is the matrix. Okay? The matrix is made out of different types of proteins. So the stuff that's here that's non-living, this is the matrix. The matrix is made of different things like collagen. In hyaline cartilage, you also have a compound called hyaluronic acid. It's non-living material. I don't care that you know exactly what it is. But then we can see these cells, right? Okay? So here's a cell. What do you think this little part of the cell is right there? That's its nucleus. This is the plasma membrane. This is the cytoplasm. That round structure is the nucleus. Got it?
okay, so the whole red thing is the nucleus. Or
Yeah,
this
the
is
whole
a
pale
cell.
thing there that you can't see. This whole thing is a cell.
Okay.
Okay, because I'm going to highlight something else. Notice there's an empty space. So here's the empty space that my cell is sitting in. The empty space is called a lacuna. Okay? This whole little thing right here, inside the lacuna, is a chondrocyte. Okay? Chondrocytes, they are the cells that are secreting and making all of this matrix. Okay? Where do you find hyaline cartilage?
Your ear.
Okay, you find a different kind of cartilage in your ear. It looks a little similar, but it's called elastic cartilage. Same with the tip of your nose.
Okay.
Where would you find parts of your body covered in hyaline cartilage?
Your knees?
Your bones. Wherever two bones join, you're going to have a layer of hyaline cartilage. Okay? Hyaline cartilage is what allows you to do this. Okay? Rotate your arm. Bend your knees when you walk. Because you're creating friction where those two bones meet, right? That layer of hyaline cartilage is going to reduce that friction and allow those bones to slide, and move together without causing pain. Now, when you get older, okay, and let's think baseball players, okay, repetitive movements, especially guys that are throwing balls like this, they get a condition that is called osteoarthritis, right? Among other things. And there's lots of things. Osteoarthritis is because of that repetitive motion over and over and over again. They wear away that cartilage. And then it becomes painful. Movements, any general movement, it becomes painful to them. Knees as well. If they do running, jumping, repetitive motions on their legs, they wear away that cartilage and it becomes rough. So that cartilage protects the ends of our bones from friction. Okay? Any questions?
Is that cause like coughing and things like
That's air, supposedly air in the joint capsule. There's other things going on. That's not what causes the popping, but it's air within the capsule that kind of holds it all together. And cracking your knuckles is not bad.
Yeah. It's not bad?
No, that is a myth. Now, if you're walking around and you feel that cracking in your shoulder, like I do right now, that's bad. But sitting there and doing this all day long doesn't make your joints bigger. It doesn't increase any wear and tear on them. I've cracked my knuckles for years. I can still put on all my rings. It's not bad. It's unpleasant to some people, but it's not damaging.
It's gross.
All right. So that's another connective tissue. The last connective tissue that we're going to look at today is blood.
But if they can.
And you need to look at the slide that's the human blood smear. Now remember, we looked at blood before when we looked at that little trypanosoma parasite. Remember, it's a hard one to focus. This is what you want. You want all of that field of red dots.
What is this?
And we have to go on the highest magnification. Right there. Where's me? Something draw. And label everybody.
The blood cells are pretty tiny.
Yes, they are.
They're like white blood
What are
cells
some
and
big
red blood
ones?
cells.
Yes, there are. There's 3 things you need to know in this one.
White.
First of all, this is blood. Okay? The general tissue is blood. You have 3 parts, 3 cell types that you need to know. The most numerous ones that you see here, these little red spheres, these guys are erythrocytes. Yes, they are your red blood cells, but we're in college now, not in the 5th grade. Erythrocytes. Okay? No, we're not in the 5th grade anymore. Erythrocytes. What's the function of the erythrocytes? What do they do? Transport oxygen. All right? Then you're going to see these teensy specks. Little dots. Those are little fragments of cells that are called
Like,
the rhombocytes, or platelets.
Can we just use platelets?
Rhombocytes,
Okay, not 5th grade. No.
not 5th grade. What's the function of a thrombocyte?
I like 5th grade.
scab.
Blood clotting.